Good morning. I'm Jim Gilmartin, and it's my privilege on behalf of the ECCL board and directors and management leadership team to welcome you to the 200th meeting of the ECCL. Amazing. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time and interest. On the occasion of our 200th meeting, I want to recognize previous ECCL leaders, specifically Don Eslick and Nick Bedos, for their wisdom, vision, and commitment to making the Estero area a destination where people want to come to live, work, and play. Thanks also to our current and past leaders and members who have supported the ECCL for over 2 decades. During the meeting, we will try to answer as many questions as possible. However, we may be limited to time, so we'll get what we can done. Finally, we're also recording the meeting, as we usually do these Zoom meetings, and you'll be notified when it's available on the ECCL website, which is typically 1 or 2 days, so you can review the meeting as you like. I'd like to now turn it over to Mark for a few minutes. Mark?
Thanks. Let's all take a moment and reflect on all those affected by the COVID-19. Thanks. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to introduce the panelists you see on your screen now. This month, our guest speaker is a recently elected County Commissioner, Kevin Ruane. Also joining us is Mark Levitsky, our Chief Operating Officer, Bary Freedman, our Membership Development Officer, Allan Bowditch, our Chief Communications Officer, and John Quin, our Chief Financial Officer. It's my pleasure now to introduce recently elected Lee County Commissioner Kevin Ruane. Commissioner Ruane will serve District 1 and has lived in Sanibel since 2004. He was elected chairperson of the Board of County Commissioners. At his swearing-in ceremony, he encouraged extensive discussion among the public and the Board of County Commissioners and would continue to encourage public input. Commissioner Ruane is a dedicated community volunteer. He is a business leader, elected official, and family man. His experience uniquely qualifies him to bring an innovative leadership style to the Board of Commissioners based upon an extensive record of accomplishments and results. Commissioner Ruane, you're on.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to obviously join you and listen to your concerns. I never envisioned being in public office. Not certain, something I really thought about doing. It just evolved. For people that heard my story, I came to Sanibel 2 weeks before Hurricane Charlie. Hurricane Charlie hit Sanibel as a Category 4. I didn't know a soul. My in-laws were the only people I knew. They were in Canada. We got together as a city over at the Holiday Inn. I raised my hand. I've been involved since. And we continue to really focus on the job and the responsibilities. I have 2 great children that are in the process of moving down to Lee County. That's always been the plan. And they're probably the reason I continue to serve. I'm someone that has the fortune of not having the financial pressures that a lot of people do. I've been a volunteer for Sanibel and didn't receive any compensation. And my net proceeds from this job is being donated to community cooperative. So I'm not doing this obviously for a paycheck. What I'm here to do, honestly, is talk to you and understand your concerns, try to understand the issues that are out there, and most importantly, communicate to you so you're aware of some of the complexities when we make a decision. Because I will make one promise to you that I'm going to make a decision that you may not necessarily agree with, but I hope that I'll have an opportunity to just explain the rationale, the thoughts behind it, and some of the issues that I was, struggling with to come up with my conclusion. I've done that before. I was fortunate to govern in Sanibel. Sanibel, of all municipalities, I believe has been the most open, most transparent, the way we do government. Every single action we take, we need to take a motion, we need to take a second, we need to have public comment. It's the way we've interacted. There's 2 opportunities in the meeting to talk, as well as every other item on the agenda. So if you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, you do it first part of the meeting, you do it at the end. But we really want to hear from you, the community, make sure we understand that. That's my style. That's what I promised to do. I was fortunate to be able to run in District 1. My wife certainly indicated in 2017, it was going to be my last term. I believe in term limits. And for Sanibel, we don't have term limits, but in 17, I announced that would be my last term. Fortunately, Commissioner Manning actually decided he was going to retire. He reached back out to me. For some people that do know or aware, I did run in 2015 for about 2 months. We had a family medical situation that forced me to come out of the race, and I'm glad I did. I was able to do everything that I wanted to do, address our issues, make sure we're proactive in those things that we need to deal with, and have done so. My wife has honestly been my rock through this, and she was really the catalyst because I thought I was definitely done with politics per se. But she encouraged me to do so. Almost a 2-year cycle of running and being out there. It's a pleasure to do this. I hope certainly to connect with you and understand your issues, try to understand what they're about, and see that my door is always open. We may not necessarily always agree, but my door will always be open.
Okay, I'm going to open it up now to those participants that are out there. We have a number of them online. Anybody have any questions of Commissioner Ruane at this point? Anything at all? There's one. Just a second. I will check with her. Okay, Donna, you can speak. Go right ahead. This is Donna Sutton.
Hi, I have a question. It's related to the Conservation 2020 properties.
Yep.
And maintaining them. My understanding is there has everything in Parks and Rec, and the people that maintain those properties have been dispersed into different areas. And I don't know all the details, but that it's been reorganized. Do you know where it's at, where it's going, and will the maintenance and elimination of the invasives and things like that continue on those properties?
Thanks for the question, Donna. I can tell you I ran on a few things in my platform. One was to be a champion of the environment. Anyone that knows me knows that I've been certainly out there front and center, understanding how important the environment is. 2020 is a very crucial program to Lee County. I'm aware of the changes that took place. I remember back in the day when you used to charge 5 mils. There was a separate fund, there was a separate allocation, both not only for purchasing new parcels, but also maintaining it. I'm aware that it got folded into the general operating budget, but we do track, and I do keep track of that. If anyone knows anything about me, I'm a financial guy by trade, and I will make sure that we separate that. To your question of maintenance, as long as I'm on the county commission, we will not only take care of those properties and maintain them, but I'll do whatever I can to potentially open up the properties that are available so we can use them for recreation, hiking, on things of that nature, biking, walking. I think we have a lot of opportunities. I come from an environment in Sanibel where less is more. 2/3 of Sanibel is in conservation land. The values for people that may not necessarily know, the values between Sanibel and Fort Myers, okay? So the total assessed value in Sanibel compared to Fort Myers is only about 20% greater than the values on Sanibel. More importantly, they have 15 times the population we do. So we've proven that less is certainly more, and we're much better with that. That's been my philosophy. So I didn't want to necessarily see the county acquire all these properties, not utilize them. It's really important that we continue to do this. It's a way that we continue to improve water quality. So as long as I'm there, I'll do so. I'm not aware of any reorganization whatsoever, but in 6 weeks, I won't say that there might not have been some things happening before I got in office, but I can assure you the 2020 program is really important as far as I'm concerned, and I'll make sure, at least from my voice, the maintenance will make sure we take care of and we address all the issues. I don't want to have these properties and not have them maintained.
Right. I mean, we appreciate the buying of the last couple properties that were bought and the continuing, buying of them. But yeah, and maintenance is also important. So thank you.
Absolutely. And one more thing you may or may not know, Donna, we do separate money not only in maintenance. There's about $56 million. Part of our budget is set aside for maintenance, and every year we do put money into that. So I can't imagine we're putting money into it, not utilizing the funds, but I'll make sure we do so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Donna. We also have Dion on that seems to have a question here. So Dion, you're on. You have to unmute yourself, Dion.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. My name is Bob Dion, by the way. My last name is Dion. I'm actively involved in Pelican Sound, Watercraft and River Committee, and the issues of the Estero River. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, you're going on.
Yeah, okay, all right. And I'm not sure what the county role is regarding this issue, but we all know that the Estero River is impaired, and the Estero Bay has issues as well with pollution, some of which is coming from human waste. So I was just curious, what does the county do in this regard? I know the village is working at it and trying to do some things, but it's very, very slow because of permitting and also, you know, the matter of the amount of money that it costs to do some things. But what does the county do in that regard?
What I can tell you is that when we reassigned all our responsibilities, I took all the water quality projects and liaison appointments. Estero is one of them. There's actually a subcommittee that meets to talk about that. I'm not necessarily certain what your responsibility is in Estero, what the county is. Anything that within the city, it's not an unincorporated county, the city is actually responsible. Whatever assistance you might all need, I'm certainly here to do so. But you know, the way the county is organized is that 60% of Lee County is governed by cities and 40% is governed by the Lee County Commissioners, and we're unincorporated Lee County. Until a city comes to us, it's always been the county's responsibility and really stance that we let the city lead. When the city needs assistance, they certainly come to us.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your input.
Sure.
Thanks, Bob. Are there any other questions out there? Okay, just Barry, hold on a second. Let me just check here. Okay, Barry, you're on.
Thank you. Kevin, can you give us an update on the county's response to the issuance of the vaccines, how you feel it was handled and where we're going from here?
Sure. Great question. And honestly, I'm hopeful I can provide some clarity on this situation. So it'll be 2 weeks Sunday. I received a call from Roger DiGiulè that indicated that the vaccines were going to be distributed through the Department of Health. The Department of Health in Lee County is run by a lady called Angela Smith. And these are facts. People don't necessarily like the fact they say we're trying to pass the buck. But that's exactly, she reports directly to the Surgeon General. She has nothing to do with our budget. I have no reporting responsibilities. I have no way to govern. She reached out to Roger to say that she needed help with logistics, no different than what she did with PPP. With that in mind, Roger reached out to the county commissioners. We sit down and said, we're going to run logistics. We were initially awarded 12,000 vaccines from the governor through the Department of Health. And we were told to vaccinate as many people as possible. First come, first serve, do it. Okay. That program obviously was a failure. I don't know another way to say it. It was a failure. So with that in mind, the state, again, our supply is from the state. So we vaccinated about 6,300 people of the first 12,000 doses we had. The state came back to us and indicated, we'd like you to pilot a reservation system. Both Sarasota, Orange County, Charlotte, Collier all had struggles with the reservation system. So we'd like you to do this reservation system. Looking at the demographics of our area, a lot older than other communities, they thought it would be best for us to have a phone system. From that, we basically said, fine, we would go with this company called Tidal Basin. We rolled out the vaccines with them. My job, honestly, since this has happened, is I spend an awful lot of time at the Emergency Management Center over in Ortiz, because just last week, the responsibility went from the Department of Health to the Emergency Management. The governor is actually running this through the emergency management departments. So we were then took that. The day the phone went live, you dial to an 800 number. Okay, the 800 number, either Verizon or AT&T will route your phone call to the 800 number. I sat in the EOC and watched 84,000 calls come in the first minute. Okay, I had people tell me they dialed on 5 and 6 phones. Okay, here's the way it works. You basically have a phone, it comes to the 800 number, and in the queue, okay, we took the first 5,000 calls and dumped them in the queue. Everybody thereafter either got a busy signal, some error message, because there was an overload. Even AT&T and Verizon said in their history, they hadn't had such a surge in literally like 46 or 48 seconds, because it was a minute, but obviously when they broke it down. So with that in mind, listen, we get it, we understand. The big issue when I look at this is, first and foremost, we have 270,000 people that are over 65 here in Lee County. Furthermore, this is a federal program. Okay, so since it's a federal program, paid for by the federal government, 100%, we are not able to, and we were told very specifically, they would take our vaccines in the future away from us if we turned anyone away that's here part-time. So now I take our population from 770,000 to close to 1 million people with the same factor of 34, 35% of the people over 65. And that number goes to 350,000. 5,000 vaccines is just not enough to try to even make a dent. Okay. The problem, honestly, when you look at the supply chain, there's 275,000 vaccines that Florida received to distribute through 67 counties. That's the way it came down. Fortunately, Lee County is in 4th place in actually vaccinating the most number of people per population. Pinellas, Orange, and Duval are in front of us. We're in 4th place, and we are now working in concert with Lee Health. 6 weeks ago, when I got briefed, when I first came into office, I asked what role specifically were we going to play in the vaccinations. I was told there would not be a role for Lee County. It was going to go through the medical system, where it should go, where it should be disseminated through doctors, urgent care centers, walk-in clinics, hospitals, and the pharmacies. We don't have the manpower. What I've done is grab paramedics, EMT people, and we came up with a situation as best we have. The governor also made further restrictions where he, by executive order, signed an order indicating we had to vaccinate people 65 and over. There's some conflicting information with CDC out there. You have different phases, different people, older people to necessarily do that. We're following the playbook as we are. As a result of us advocating and working directly with the Department of Emergency Management, working the back channels, knowing this governor, having been appointed by him, we had some very specific conversations. Lee Health, on the other hand, were given 10,000 vaccines. They started to do their frontline workers. And it was in the news this week that they were holding about 5,800 vaccines. Okay, that came out in the news, and certainly the governor was not happy. We're working in a collaborated effort. I have a meeting this afternoon with Dr. Antonucci and some of his key staff. So we need to together, obviously, vaccinate the population here. We set up a site at RSW, which is near the old airport where it used to be the original airport. It's a great facility. It certainly accommodates what we want. You have trams that have splash guards and sneeze guards on them, so you keep people apart. You have the ability to park your car if you want. You don't want to get on the tram because you feel like you can walk. Park your car. There's social distancing, 6 feet apart. Everyone has masks on. You walk in, you get greeted. You walk into an area. You go into a tent. There's 20 different stations to get vaccinated. We're vaccinating over 330 people an hour there. Okay, that's what we're doing. And there's a separate area for you to actually sit there and we check your vitals. Okay. The good news is yesterday we were on the phone with Tallahassee. We were told our normal allotment is about 4,500. So what we initially did was use about 6,000 odd doses from the first thing. and then obviously book appointments for this week that went through, with the hoping that every Tuesday we get our allocation. We're another 4,500. We thought if we did 5,000, we'd continue to have a normal flow of 5,000 because we had some additional residue left over. Yesterday, we were told because of our performance and the dosages were reduced from 275,000 to 200. But because we're doing so well, we were asked what realistically could we vaccinate at that site. We told them that we can do 9,000 people with no problem, and certainly increase our doses. We're doing about 330 an hour with about 15 minutes of downtime. So we were told there's a high probability we would receive that. Furthermore, Lee Health now has found a way to continue to get rid of their doses. And you unfortunately get rewarded and or penalized based on what you're doing. The governor is very clear what he's trying to do from a state point of view is vaccinate people, okay? And it really comes down to numbers at this point in time. If you can vaccinate more people, you get rewarded. If you can't, you know, he obviously has a situation. I never thought I'd be in the vaccine business, okay? That's not what I was prepared for. People have said everything and anything. I have no problem taking a heat on this. I'll try to talk to people, but those are the facts. If anyone that knows me, I'm not a politician. I don't try to, spin a word. I give you exactly the way we have it. But I can tell you firsthand, I've worked literally round the clock, answering emails, answering phone calls, trying to get back to people. I get people are frustrated. I get people are anxious. They've been in their homes since last March. This is their way of freedom. Additionally, there is a second shot associated with this. The federal government will ship that directly to us. You're in Florida shots when you get your first shot. 28 days, you get your second shot. It's the way it's going to go. I hope and pray that we're able to get enough vaccines here, and the medical system honestly can really do and lead this. But for the moment, the governor has given us this opportunity. And for the moment, I have to do what's best for Lee County. If we can certainly have Lee Health deplete their supply, and maybe if they can get as much as we do, they get 10,000, we get 10,000, we could really start to move the needle at 20,000 people a week. And then obviously people's anxiety will calm down.
Kevin, just a thought.
Sure.
Let's assume the phone lines open again on say Monday, the 11th. One way to do,
Okay.
Let's assume that happens, or
Well,
the
they're
12th.
not going to go do for another week.
Okay, whatever the date is, let's
Yep.
pick a date. But let's say my birth date is the 15th of the month.
Yep.
And I'm 65 and over, and I know there's about 300,000 of us when you consider the snowbirds. If
Yep.
you're doing 5,000 a
week.
day, it's going to take 100 days to vaccinate all the seniors.
Absolutely.
So just do the math. Let's assume my birth date is the 15th. Then the only people that should call in on the line on the 15th of January would be those of us who have a 15th of the month birthday. And if I miss it, I go to the 15th of February and call in. But if I'm born on the 16th, I call in on the 16th, and so on. That way you spread it out for the month. Everybody knows their date of birth. Now, take into consideration, sure, I may have a spouse. Maybe her birth date is different than mine. I got that. But at least per household, you get a date. And you'd know exactly what day you could call in. That just sounds so logical to those of us who thought of this.
Again, I don't disagree. We need to improve the system, okay? We took the state, again, the state gives you the vaccines. The state asked us to take this program. So we recognize, and honestly, because of the number of calls we received last week, there's so many people that either got hung up on, which we have their number, or said they were going to call back. So we have enough appointments for this upcoming week. So we have that. We don't want to launch the system until we have some type of hybrid of a phone, because we still have to recognize, whether you like it or not, I have people that are 80 and 85 that don't have a computer. My mom's 85. She's never owned a computer, doesn't have an iPhone, does whatever. Additionally, okay, we recognize there has to be some type of online system. We're evaluating some reservation system online. We're looking at maybe the jury pool, the way we get people that way. We're looking at honestly the supervisor election. You've actually came in, sent your information, wanted some vote. We need another part of this to complement and or improve the system. I'm glad we don't have to do anything this upcoming week. Listen, what I heard loudly and clearly was that people didn't wait on lines, okay? So the minor improvement we made with the reservation system is we avoided my senior citizens here in Lee County waiting in the cold
Right.
out there. Okay.
I couldn't agree.
I
better.
understand, and I can assure you the reservation system's only going to get better. But honestly, I'm hoping as more supply comes here, and there's a lot of blame going around from the federal government, who's supposed to, we're supposed to have 20 million people. Supply is going to help this issue. And honestly, I do believe we'll improve the reservation system to have one aspect where you can call and one aspect where we'll notify you. I'd like to be proactive and send notices out and then have some type of jury pool type of situation where you'll know this. Orange County is doing that, and they have reservations out till May. The problem you have is when I was at the site the other day, people say, oh, Charlotte's doing it great. Collier's doing it great. I can tell you, I talked to 3 different couples from Collier and 3 different couples from Charlotte. They both came down here. They called on the 800 number. They got in it. So there's one of your challenges is as people get a reservation and your date is March or April, are you going to wait? Unfortunately, we live in a world where we want instant gratification. We want instant results. So people are going to wait. But I hear your question, and I agree wholeheartedly. We have to have some improvements to the system. Again, did I think I was going to be managing this as the chair? I'm the voice. I'm the one that has this. We haven't had a meeting. And again, we could have a meeting, but at the moment, the charter says, when we don't have a meeting, Roger does the playbook. I'm just fortunate to be at the EOC every day with the team, really being involved in this. I've answered every phone call, every email. We're working around the clock to do this. We need to get better at this. And I'll make one promise, as long as I have a voice, we'll get better at this.
Thanks for your help.
No problem.
Thanks very much, Kevin. I just have a personal comment on this. I was fortunate, and on Tuesday when it opened up, I dialed in and I was able to leave a message, and I got a call back, and I got a vaccination. I think it was Monday. I had the vaccination on Tuesday. And when I went out to Chamberlain, it was amazing how efficient it was, how effective it was, how they covered every base on this thing. So I've got to give them kudos on that. The phone system is a problem. We all recognize that. Once somebody gets that okay and gets that slot for the appointment, it really works very, very well. So, okay, on that issue, anyone else have a question? Donna, do you have a question? Let me just check.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. How are the vaccines allocated from the federal government? Because considering that we have 300,000, how many people that are here seasonally, and they're allocating those vaccines, like say per state, if they're by state population, and they're not counting in the state of Florida, the number of increased people down here getting vaccinated and allocating more. That's a concern to me. Secondly, I heard on TV last week, and then I heard this morning, people from that have a lot, are flying down here just to get the vaccine from another state. Not that they're seasonal. They're flying down here to get the vaccine because we have less stringent requirement age-wise and for people-wise.
Donna, we receive the allotment from the federal government. It comes to the state. We know week by week, like I said, this Monday, we were told we'd have 275,000. For the upcoming week, we were told 200,000. That's for the entire state of 23 million people. The governor has an executive order. We have to follow the executive order. It's what he does. I am certain that New York and New Jersey and other states probably have a different executive order. They're probably following the CDC guidelines, which have a little bit more restrictions. Additionally, they're also looking at older people getting vaccinated first as opposed to 65 and older. But again, the playbook we have is I don't have the luxury of ignoring the executive order set by the governor. And he basically has given us very clear instructions on what we do. And quite frankly, the fact that we executed as well as we did, and I think Jim alluded to the process, we have the process down. I am very confident we could do 5,000 vaccines a day at that site at RSW. We can go 4, 5, 6 days. We could really start to move the needle. We need vaccines. And honestly, I've been working with Senator Rubio's office. I certainly made my phone calls at the Senator Scott's office. We need the federal government to open up and send more vaccines to the state. Everything else will go away thereafter because we can work on two fronts, the medical system front and our front there, and get people vaccinated as quickly as we can. Vaccines solve all the problems. We can talk about all the anxiety, reservation system, whatever. If you get massive amounts and you can go to your local doctor, you can go to local pharmacy like you do for a flu shot, all this anxiety is going to go away. My job is to advocate, and I'm happy in the phone calls we had, that allotment will be doubled this week. If we could execute the way I think we can, and we're going to get rewarded on vaccinating people, we'll continue to make sure, and my job is to get the most vaccines for Lee County.
Well, that's mainly what I want, is to get the most vaccine that we can, and to let people know that we have increased population.
Absolutely. And I've made that case, Donna. I said we go from 770 to 1,000,000 So when you look at our demographic, because we're supposed to follow the governor's order, 65 and over, we have a much higher demographic of over 65-year-old. We made that case. I've been working with Jared Mazakowicz, who's the executive director of the Department of Emergency Management, through all the contacts. And I will certainly be very happy when the vaccines are in our inventory and we're able to open that up and do so more. Furthermore, Lee Health, if they can get rid of their supply, we could really start to get things done here in Lee County. But I agree with everything you said. And all I can tell you is I've been advocating at the top of my lungs to make sure we get the vaccines.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Alan, you have a question?
Yes, good morning, Kevin, and a very warm thank you both from me and I'm sure everybody who happens to be listening. I think it's great that you've been able to come and address us today and listen to the questions. I'm going to change tack with my question. I want to talk to you about the issue of the algae blooms that we get along the coastline here in Florida. Obviously, you living in Sanibel, have a clear understanding of this. I've lived here now for the best part of the last 17 or 18 years. And over that time, if anything, I would think that the issue has gotten worse, not better. So, given the background here, if we look forward, is there very much that, the commissioners and others could do to help reduce this, given the impact on businesses and, of course, on reducing potential visitors to our area?
I don't necessarily believe that the visitors are a direct correlation to the blue-green algae. What I believe we need to do is there's been an education process. 14 years ago, when I decided to get involved in government, there's two aspects when you look at pollution, okay? One's water quality and one's water quantity, okay? Water quality is communities like Estero and Sanibel deal with fertilizer, deal with stormwater runoff, deal with septic, okay? Deal with the issues, reclaim water that are on golf courses that are high in nutrients. You have to first and foremost address water quality. When I was mayor of Sanibel, we're 100% sewered. We had one of the strictest fertilizer programs. You could not get a license as a landscaper unless you passed our fertilizer program, okay? Furthermore, reclaim water, we invested $27 million in a plan to take the reclaimed water, remove the phosphate nitrogen, and then obviously reuse that water. So obviously we're not polluting the environment. We furthermore went to our rivers. We had 73 rivers in Sanibel and started to put marshes in there, which is also known as stormwater treatments, right inside the river to try to clean that up. Those are the things we did. When I went to Tallahassee and Washington, I advocated for the water quantity. Those are the massive projects we need. Those, we heard things like C43, making sure we have a stormwater runoff, a stormwater treatment, I'm sorry, the EAA, okay, which is going to be the southern reservoir. Each community needs to really play a role. When I was president of the Florida League of Mayors, 412 cities, I adopted challenging all communities to do what you need to do inside your community, okay? We all want green grass. Are you willing to not have it fertilized during the blackout period of time? What's Estero doing to implement and force those rules? Again, each community plays a role in that, because at the end of the day, is building having impact? Absolutely. Our increase in population, but if we follow the rules, okay, and everybody takes an active role, there's no reason we shouldn't have those. And listen, we were front and center. Blue-green algae was at, red tide certainly. And what happens when you have phosphate and nitrogen, it fuels obviously the red tide. You might as well put gasoline on top of a fire. Okay. You know, I had hundreds of millions of pounds of fish wash up on my beach when I was mayor of Sanibel. Okay. I never saw so much wildlife. It all started with a 27-foot whale shark that washed up on my beach. You know, when the National Weather Department wants to meet me, and this isn't like local, this is the national, and talk about red tide, I understand our problem. But again, Sanibel is the catcher's mitt. We're at the end of the run. So if coming down from us, why did I start years ago putting the mayors together and then trying to go to other things? I put together the largest compact in Florida's history with 163 people. All the people that are around Lake O, okay, the whole horseshoe, try to have them be involved. This is far too important because it's our quality of life. It obviously impacts our local economy because of tourism. And more importantly, it impacts our biggest investment, which is our real estate, prices of real estate. We need to obviously, each mayor, each city needs to have an active role. You just can't say, you know, we have blue-green algae, it's someone else's fault. Look internally and see how you're helping. And honestly, I've been working with a lot of your leaders, you know, certainly your first mayor, Nick Bedos, your most recent mayor, you know, Bill Ribble, trying to have them very much engaged so all the cities are together. What I'm going to do on the counties, because I was able to put all the cities together, I'm part of a county coalition. There's 19 of us. I got on that. Again, I'm here 6 weeks, but I want to bring all the counties together because if we all can come on the same page and start to have some of the same processes and then advocate for the projects are going to certainly take care of a lot of the issues you're talking about, because the runoff that you receive that contribute to the blue-green algae is really water that's coming down from the Caloosahatchee when we have to have those releases. With a C-43 and the ability to actually clean some of the water, it will slow down the process. Do all we can. Furthermore, we are working very closely with the South Water Management District, okay? That whole entire board got fired. Governor DeSantis came in. We all have new board members. Chauncey Goss is the chairman. He used to be on Sanibel. We're on council together. Most people know Portergoss, his father. Drew Bartlett is the executive director. The mission there is certainly for water quality. So the landscape has changed. Unfortunately, we can't undo what we did to Mother Nature. What we can do is have it rebound if we all take an active role and not necessarily. So look, I always say, look within your local cities, Bonita, Estero, Fort Myers Beach, have them take care of that. And if everybody does their part, we'll certainly we'll be on the road to, you know, a much better environment than we have right now. But I agree with you. It has gotten worse, but I also think it's worse because we're not willing to make the hard choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. One of the ECCL's key strategic issues is to improve water quality. Now, you know, you sound very informed about this. You've dealt with it for a number of years. We have not, but we want to get into the game. We want to make sure that anything we can do to help improve water quality, we want to get involved in. So that is one of our key issues, and perhaps we'll have conversations down the road to support what you're looking to do.
Listen, Jim, you know what? It's really important. And, you know, what we try to do on Sanibel is share the information with all the other communities, because we honestly believe, not that we're perfect, but we spent over $100 million, $120 million on the environment. And listen, it's great to have reserves. It's great to have big reserves left over, but what good is it if you're not actually implementing and using the reserves? There's a program we follow. The mayors certainly get together, and I can certainly go over 5 or 6 things to make sure you're doing your part in the sterile.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
One more thing, if I would, you know, just allow.
You got
septic
it.
systems. Yep, septic systems are an issue that everyone wants to talk about in Lee County. Right. One of the disappointing things in Lee County is the last couple of years, Sanibel had about 12 properties that were still on septic that weren't converted to sewer. Last year, when I went up to Tallahassee, we received a grant to contribute and offset some of the costs associated with that. About $750,000 we received to obviously mitigate some of the expenses associated with that. The governor, when he came in office, indicated he would spend $650 million each year. $25 million was set aside for septic conversions. Okay. What I'd like to see on that is, first and foremost, the only thing that Lee County put in for septic conversions was $750,000. $25 million was not utilized. Noah Valenstein, who heads up the DEP, said, Mayor, this is when I was mayor, you talk about all your mayors want to do something, no one's put in applications. We have money here that we're not utilizing. What I also would like to do, Jim, is actually pass a law and work with some of our legislators that if you sell your home or 5 years, whatever comes quicker, if you have a septic tank, not all septic tanks are bad, but when they're leaching and they're breaching, we need to obviously hold people accountable. And the only way to do that is have some periodic review. And when you identify that, then that comes to your city and we work with you as a county. And okay, how do we do that? We work together because there's grants out there, there's money that's available. Is it going to pay for it all? Absolutely not. But right now I'm working with Captiva because Captiva is unincorporated Lee County and Sanibel has capacity where Captiva could hook in. So trying to do that so we start to show people we have opportunities. A lot of the septic systems will take some time to design and get together. Captiva is in a unique situation where they literally can tap into Sanibel's infrastructure as it is and try to do something. My job is to try to identify the septic tanks because that's a big part of our problem, but we also need to working together. And when you're elected officials, they need to go to Tallahassee and ask, because you don't ask for money, some other community is going to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hands, so I think that's it. Oh yes, we do have one. Just give me a second and I will. I always get this wrong. Mr. Graber, let me, I think I'll try this. Is there anyone there that wants to speak at this number? If so, you have to unmute yourself. I'm afraid he or she is not. I just see a telephone number. You'll have to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Okay, I guess he decided or she decided not to do that. We have one, I'm sorry, one more has come up. Yeah, Dion, are you there?
Unmute. I'm unmuted. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't want to consume a lot of time, but I thank you for the comments about the septic systems. We know there's human bacteria in some of our waterways, and I'm going to be talking. I'm just a private citizen. I'm not in any capacity whatsoever, but certainly I will be talking. I talk to the village council often, maybe more than what they want, but I'll be presenting that information to them that, hey, there's money available, go get it. Let's, do whatever we can to get the money to convert. There are specific projects to clean up certain areas. They know exactly where all the septic systems are, I believe. And there are some easier areas to clean up where they're close and easy to get to, and maybe already have sewer lines in the area. They can concentrate on that. But we've got it budgeted way out into the future, and I don't know what's going to happen if we leave this alone for the next couple of years. So thank you for your comments. I'll pass it.
I can assure you it's what I concentrated on when I was on Sanibel. It's what I ran on. I'm a person that I keep my promises. Water quality, I will continue to make sure we get everything we can from Lee County, no different than what we just went through the vaccines. My job is to help Lee County. So I'll work with all the mayors. I don't cover your district, but they all know how to find me. Feel free to do so. I, by far, of any mayor, been at Tallahassee more than anybody that I'm aware of, and I've been to Washington more times than I even like to think about. So it's too important an area for me. I have my kids here, my grandkids growing up here. We need to turn the tide, and honestly, we need to change the water quality issues we have right now. And septic, I'd like to just see the inspections. I want to identify what's breaching first, what's leaching first, what's actually adding to our pollution. We need to go after those first. That's what we really need to do. The others are great, but just because you have a septic system doesn't mean it's bad, okay? I want to address the ones that obviously are contributing to the nutrient load in the environment.
That makes sense, and we're in your corner, absolutely. Thanks, Bob. Okay, I think there may be one more. No, it doesn't show that. We're good. Okay, that's it on the questions for Commissioner Ruane. So we'd like to move on with the meeting. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about some of the things the ECCL is getting involved with. Let me begin by saying, the ECCL is a founding member, founding partner of, and has contributed to the Estero Forever Foundation. The foundation recently made a $5,000 contribution to the Historical Society, which is really cool and really needed. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of our strategic planning over the last several months. The ECCL's executive management team formed a strategic thinking and planning committee several months ago in the late summer of 2020. It was chaired by our Chief Communications Officer, Allan Bowditch, and comprised of active volunteers, the EMT, and a board member. The committee members spent a significant amount of time considering and developing actions and strategies, included in the 2021 and 2025 plan. The EMT also spent a considerable amount of time reviewing and discussing the recommended strategies in the plan. Now, concurrently with that committee working, the ECCL board participated in a workshop to sort through governance and management roles and responsibilities. You all recall, those of you who are on here are probably aware, the ECCL went through a transition just last year. We looked at our management roles and responsibilities. The outcome consisted of revised ECCL purpose statement and vision statements, clarifications and agreement on governance and management roles, and policies guiding management and pursuing activities. The board also requested management to recommend ECCL focused goals for 2021 through 2025. That's where we're going next. The outcome of both activities was an agreement on the key leadership strategic issues for 21 and through 25. These issues will be discussed at the next board meeting, with just a few days ahead of us. But as I said earlier, the first one is to improve water quality. The second, improve community health. The third, increase safety. The fourth, to promote culture and recreation activities. The fifth, improve Greater Estero area schools. And finally, support economic growth, which is tied to community development as well. To give you an example of a goal, I'll pick improve water quality. It goes something like this: to improve water quality in the Greater Estero area by collaborating with water quality experts, advocacy groups, Village of Estero, and Lee County officials to identify controllable water pollutant sources. Those are the kinds of things Kevin was just talking about. Where's the real problem right now? What's going on now? And try to identify them and do something about it. To determine acceptable targets levels of nutrient-related pollutants, for example, nitrates, ammonium, and phosphate, that meets regional quality standards, and establish then common goals and strategies to reduce water pollution by November of 2022. This is what a major goal, and following that is a series of strategies, and one of them is what Kevin's talking about, and that is our septic system. To do something about that, that's one of the ways we can achieve this goal going forward. All the key strategic issues have primary goals and strategies to accomplish those goals. We'll also monitor other issues and act accordingly, obviously. We're not going to be just locked into that. As issues surface, we'll respond accordingly. Also, the ECCL board approved management's recommendation to make an application to the Internal Revenue Service to change our designation from a 501c4 to a 501c3 organization. In September of 2020, the EMT requested John Quin, our Chief Financial Officer, to determine if ECCL can and should convert the current 501c4 organization status to a 501c3 organization. Upon consultation with the EMT, attorneys, and performing due diligence, the EMT agreed with John's opinion that we should apply for 501c3 status, and as I said, the board approved that. So what is a 501c4? Just for your information, a 501c4 organization, which is what we are now, is operated exclusively for promoting social welfare like volunteer fire departments and organizations that engage in substantial lobbying activities, and contributions to these organizations are not tax deductible. On the other hand, the 501c3 is a nonprofit organization, and it's qualified to receive contributions from individuals and others that are tax deductible. To qualify to be classified as a 501c3, the organization must fit into one of the exempt purposes I'm going to lay out. It's defined by the IRS regulations: religious, charitable, literary, scientific, educational, public safety, testing, and foster amateur sports. We fall into this. We pick it up through education and public safety. So our objective is to file an application to make that change. Should we be successful and the IRS says, yes, okay, you can be a 501c3, there are a lot of advantages that come our way as a 501c3 organization. We can self-manage our current foundation. We have the ECCL Advocacy Foundation. It's managed by Southwest Florida Community Foundation for a fee. Self-managed should not ask any overhead. And as we are currently managing our books, we retain records of income and expense and file with the Florida Secretary of State, the Florida Department of Agriculture, and the IRS. We will directly then communicate our message to our contributors, and contribution receipts will come from the ECCL, not a third party. The executive management team will control investment management using a third-party professional financial firm. We will know where our funds are and their status at all times. Another major advantage is improving our public image. Qualifying as a 501c3 provides an intrinsic advantage when presenting the organization to the public. We currently are a nonpartisan, non-political organization. The 501c3 status designation reinforces this change in organizational philosophy and approach. We also get legal, tax, and funding advantages should we become a 501c3. Our contributions qualify as tax deductible on both federal and state taxes. We can apply for and manage grants and other public and private funding sources that are available only to 501c3 organizations. State and income tax exemption exists for income tax except for non-related business activity. Sales tax, Florida laws grant a special exemption to 501c3 organizations. Florida employment taxes there are exemptions up to 3 employees. We're exempt from federal unemployment tax, no fee for Lee County business license, and there's a discount on mailing costs for bulk mail. We will apply shortly for this. John Quin has been working feverishly on this, and we will keep you posted. That's sort of an update on where the ECCL has been going for the last several months, and we've accomplished quite a bit, and we will continue moving in the right direction. On these issues, are there any questions? And it looks like there's a couple here, so let's just see. Kevin's gone. There's a question here. I want to ask Kevin about increasing the impact fees. I'm sorry, Kevin is gone. I am a widow. Why can't I sign up with another person to get a vaccine? 2 people in vehicle instead of only 1. He's not here to answer that, but I believe you can if there's 2 people in a vaccine, yet those 2 people vaccinated. That's an opinion on my part, but I'm not really sure. Okay, so there aren't any questions to my comments. So what I want to do, oh yes, I did have one other thing. One of the programs we've been thinking about is considering having special Zoom programs on topical issues of interest. For example, it could be the environment, it could be health, it could be any civic topic of interest that we would bring in professionals and spend just that time with them. We could get 2 or 3 together and have a panel discussion on issues that are of interest to people in our community. So stay tuned to that. I think that's going to happen. Okay, on that note, I'm going to turn this over to Mark Levitsky to talk a little bit about the Veterans Pocket Park project that we're moving and some of the ECCL Council activities. Mark?
Thanks, Jim. Yes, we had the Estero High School students put some designs together for us, and they came up with some great work. We are really impressed. We put out a survey, over 600 people responded. They selected the top 5. We created certificates, and it's at the school right now to be awarded. When they're awarded, we will release the names with an article and pictures and some other things. But we wanted the school to go ahead and do the presentations and the awards before we publicize it. The Veterans Recognition Pocket Park, we've got a meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock on the deck of the Estero Historical Society. Please come out and talk to us. We've got some pros and cons of the 16 or so locations we're looking at, and we need to think about some things. Do we want it in a kind of a more secluded area? Do we want it in a more public area? You know, some things to think about. The transportation, we've been doing great gangbusters on the Adopta Highway, and now that Estero Parkway is so, you know, beautifully landscaped, maybe it's time to get the group of some of the homeowners in that area and try to do another Adopt a Highway. And then I would hope in a couple years when when Corkscrew Road gets finished, I would expect the same kind of thing there. Let's clean up, let's make our city as beautiful as we can. Julie Yelling has lessons learned, how to set it up, everything else, how to deal with people. Corkscrew Road is Lee County, Estero Parkway is the village of Estero, so it might be a few differences, but not much. Lastly, there's an upcoming meeting on the Lee District schools on proximity plans. And unfortunately, I don't have any kids or grandkids in the schools, so not a lot of information about it. But proximity plans are very important to anybody that has children in the Lee District schools. So you're going to see a e-blast come out from us in the next couple of days. There's a couple of meetings coming up. We hope to get some virtual meetings besides in-person meetings, because there's 4 different plans, and the plans affect the zones, and the zones affect school choice. So if you're listening today or see this later on, talk to anybody you can and get them to one of the meetings on the proximity plans. And Jim, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Are there any questions for Mark on any of his comments? Anybody? Okay, let's move forward then. John, you want to talk a little bit about finances? Let us know how we're doing and unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, John.
Yep.
There you go. There you go.
I had to find the right button.
Okay.
We finished up the calendar year for the surplus. Our revenue was higher than we originally anticipated. And due to COVID, we've been really constrained as far as our spending. Meetings that we would normally have with our reps, our members, our consuls have been almost all on a Zoom basis. We completed the invoicing for 2021, and that's been sent out. We've got approximately 25% returns on that. So so far this month. The budget has been reviewed and completed with EMT, and now we're asking for the board to do a final review and approval. They also will be approving the year-end financial statements that will be used for tax reporting. The only thing lacking is Southwest Florida Foundation. Their information lags about a month. So once that's consolidated, we'll put together a final consolidated report. We've added a new member, re-established a new member with Grandeza. They have rejoined the organization, and Bary may want to talk about that. Going forward with the 501(c)(3) application is going to be a bit of a long process. There's estimates of 6 months to a year. So this is not something that's going to happen overnight. I look forward with working with the ECCL to get us to a point where we're able to operate as a 501(c)(3). Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for John? Okay, it looks like we don't. So then I'd like to turn it over to Bary Freedman, our Chief Membership Development Officer. Bary, any comments?
Morning, everyone. Well, John's kind of stole our thunder a little bit, but he noted that the revenue has increased this past year. And I guess that's primarily due to the fact that we've had several new members, most of whom have been recognized in prior meetings or in the newsletter. But we wanted to specifically mention and thank Fred Thompson, the president of the Grandeza HOA, for recognizing the new leadership and the new direction of the ECCL and having their HOA rejoin and become a very active member at some point. And that'll be soon here in the ECCL. And that's all I have for this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bary. Anybody have any questions for Bary on membership? Okay. All right, I'd like Allan Bowditch to make any comments. Allan, just whatever you have to say.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Just a couple of quick points from the Communications Committee. We too have looked at the strategic planning report, which Jim mentioned a little earlier, and the committee itself has formed its own focused strategic issues that we will be looking at over the next few years from a communication standpoint. On a different topic, the GECR reports, that's the Greater Estero Community Reports, are being produced, once every few months. We plan to do about 4 a year, and these particular reports focus on a number of very key topics in each report. The one that we'll be releasing in January does focus on the global warming issues as they relate to our local area. So looking at this is another aspect similar to the issues that, of course, our Commissioner Kevin Ruane was focusing on a little earlier in answering the question about water quality and so forth. Although, of course, the global warming issue is a somewhat broader topic. The other topic is also going to be on the educational standards within the Greater Estero area. People perhaps don't realize how significant this is, not only for the children, but what benefits it has to the overall community itself. The comment that Mark made in relation to the Veterans Pocket Park, we will be sending out, as Mark mentioned, a communication on the results of that particular investigation, the survey that was carried out just towards the end of the year. That was extremely well done. And I think that once the presentations have been made, we would certainly like to let everybody know what actually transpired and what the winning designs were. So we'll be doing that very shortly. And finally, the Communications Committee is very focused on the development of a promotional or communications folder, if you like, which will be aimed at 3 subsets of people. First of all, those who are coming new to live in our area, in the Greater Estero area. We want them to be aware of what the ECCL stands for and what we do. And in fact, the kind of people that could assist us in providing that information to new residents here are, of course, realtors. They take a fundamental role, of course, in helping people find their own home. So we will have the piece that will be aimed at realtors to be able to provide to the new residents key information about the ECCL, as well as those who are managing new developments as well. So this will be a means of helping to communicate our message and also encourage perhaps greater membership from these newly developing communities. So there's quite a lot on at the moment, as always in the communication side, and I look forward to updating you further next month.
Thanks very much, Alan. Any questions for Alan specifically on our communications process, et cetera? No, doesn't look like it, Alan. Everybody's happy with you. Okay. Let me ask the questions, or are there any questions about anything that's on your mind out there? We have a slew of folks out there that are participating in this meeting. Okay, we have somebody here. Just give me a second. Lawrence Jones. Let's see if I can find Lawrence. There he is. Okay, Lawrence, you're on.
Good morning, Jim. Can you hear me now?
Yes, good.
Question came up. You talked about the strategic plan, and that was mentioned in the ECCL membership renewal document that was sent to the communities. So my question was, I looked on the website and I didn't see any reference to the strategic plan on the website. A, is the plan completed? And B, once it's completed, will it be available on the website so it can be distributed to the communities?
Yeah, that's a good question, Larry. I apologize. So Lawrence threw me a bit. I always knew you as Larry Jones. So it's a good question. Where we are now is the plan has been absolutely completed. And as I mentioned earlier, it's been reviewed by the executive management team. From that, we've identified 6 basic focus areas that we're going to be concentrating on over the next couple of years that I mentioned earlier. It's going to the board on the 13th of January. It'll be part of the board's review, and they will, I'm assuming, will accept the plan as written. And then once that's done, we will take that plan and we will post it online. However, candidly, the plan consists of over 50 pages. I mean, it's an extensive document. A lot of thought went into it. I doubt if we'll be publishing that. We'll sort of get it down to a summary. And maybe we have a summary in the plan now, maybe publish that, which will give you a lot of information, a lot of information as to where we're going over the next several years. And of course, folks can give us a call, write us an email for any kind of further explanation, but we don't think we'll be publishing 50 pages out there. That's it. Does that answer your question, Alan? I mean, Larry? Larry? Oh, he lost something.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, Jim. That answers the question. So, as you know, before I left the ENT, I was very supportive of a development of a strategic plan. So I'd be very interested to see that document when it's completed, because it's on the document that was sent with the invoice, there was only 4 initiatives mentioned. So once I see the finished document, I'll be reporting to the Shadowwood board because they're interested in what the ECCL is working on. So that strategic document will be very important to them. So thanks a lot for the information. I'll be looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you, Larry. And yeah, we'll be getting it out once the board is okayed and accepted the plan, and you'll be able to transmit it to anyone you like. Thanks. Doesn't look like there's anybody else. I'll just make sure of that. Take a quick look. Nope. One more. Nope. Okay. So thanks for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to come and spend some time with us and hear about what we're doing in the ECCL now and what our plans are for the future. A clear and specific thank you to Commissioner Ruane for joining us and spending the time answering questions. I found him to be very impressive, very straightforward in his approach and style. And I look forward, we always look forward to working with him and the other commissioners as we move forward. I'm also pleased to announce that next month, our speaker will be Mary Gibbs. Mary Gibbs is the Community Development Director for the Village of Estero. As Community Development Director, Mary manages the planning, the zoning, the building permitting, including the development of the village's first comprehensive plan and Land Development Code to help guide future growth and vision for Estero. Mary has it all up here. She knows everything that's going on in Estero, and I think she'll be really a great asset. And I think you'll find it very interesting to hear what she has to say and answer any questions you might have about community development, building going on, building that's been completed, and so on. People always have questions as they drive around. Gee, where did that building come from? What are they doing in there? Type of thing. So we've asked Mary to join us, and she's agreed to do that. So finally, on behalf of the Board of Directors, the Executive Management Team, and our council chairs, we wish all our members, our volunteers, local and county officials, and the residents and businesses of Greater Estero a very, very happy and safe new year. And we all hope it'll be better than this last one. On that note, I'll end this meeting. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.